Have you ever been overwhelmed and worried? Have you realized that it's become so normalized in society that often people don't even know they're doing it? In this video, we're going to dive into some of the things that help me, common causes, and how you might go about it. So in this video, we're going to be talking about dealing with overwhelm and worry. You don't necessarily have to be a worrier to be impacted by the feelings of overwhelm, which can feel uncomfortable. We're going to be talking about nervous system overload, worry itself being related to fear, what it means to be making decisions, information overload, and finally doing something new. The topics we cover in each section of this video is bound to impact everyone. So please hang around and decide what areas you think that might relate to you and which areas you have the capacity to work on. When it comes to these topics, just understanding them in themselves can be really useful, which might impact your behaviors as a direct result. What you have to realize is that the solutions don't have to be complicated. So number one on my list would be to go for a walk. Going for a walk can be incredibly beneficial to lowering your stress and overwhelm. So it's better to walk in nature environments, in a park where there's less people, but initially just find somewhere to walk and give it a go. And my second recommendation is to something called box breathing. That's to tap into a concept where we use our body to tell our minds, actually everything's okay and we can be in a relaxed state of mood. So if you join me just for one breath and you can carry it on while you're watching this video, box breathing is effectively to do a breath in to a certain number of counts, a hold, a breath out, and a second hold. You want the exhale to be longer than the inhale or just as long. By exhaling longer than your inhale, you are telling your body, your nervous system, that everything's okay. This helps you exit a part of your brain that contributes to worry, which is the sympathetic nervous system. Box breathing helps you get into the parasympathetic nervous system, where you can think more logically, less emotionally, and make better decisions around things like worry and overwhelm. So if we were to do that now, one round would look something like this. We're going to breathe in to our diaphragm region, into our belly region for 4 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds. And repeat the whole process. You can try and make your exhales longer than the 4 seconds, maybe 5 or 6 seconds. Do it during this video. See how you feel. I would expect your mood and your overwhelm to come down immediately. But of course, we need solutions for these longer term problems. So the first thing I want to say is worries are normal. Don't be the person who worries about having worries, as it will simply add to your stress. By the end of this video, you will have some ideas around why you may worry and some solutions to go up with it. The aim is just to worry a little bit less. You don't want to eradicate worry from your entire life. This would be an expectation that's probably going to lead to more worry. First, I want to talk about nervous system overload. I mentioned it earlier. When we feel stressed, when we feel worried and overwhelmed, we tend to enter a part of our brain called the limbic system, which is more emotional. And the part of the system we want to be in when we're thinking and trying to plan and make logical long-term decisions is the prefrontal cortex. That's probably all you need to know about that for now, and you can find other videos on that topic. But the one thing that seems to be triggering a lot of people into overwhelm these days is two factors in our environment. And one of them is our digital worlds. Our digital worlds are made in construct these days to manipulate us into entertaining us and getting more of our attention. You may have noticed these as these being fast-paced videos, lots of excitement in the first 5 to 6 seconds of a video. This is to grab your attention. But at the end of the day, all of this entertainment for your nervous system can be overwhelming, especially if you're scrolling and this is happening constantly, which today it really is. On all your social media channels such as Instagram, TikTok, even on YouTube, people are grabbing and competing for your attention. And marketers and video creators know the best way to do this is to create a huge impact in the first few seconds of a video. Now, you can do this responsibly, as I try to do in my own videos, to convey to you what the value in the video will be, but a lot of people use and abuse this, so you want to be aware of this especially. The other thing you want to think about is your actual physical environment. We're so used to having so many things around that make it difficult to pick up our keys or pick up our phone or pick our clothes for the day. So you may want to think about decluttering your environment. It's something I've been doing on a recurring basis. Decluttering actually will involve some thinking that may lead to additional overwhelm, so you want to do this in small chunks. But for instance, I've been looking at cutting down the amount of clothes I have, and I can show you now that literally this is my small section of clothes that I rely on a daily basis, and it's whittled down from many clothes I had before. This simplifies my life. This streamlines what I'm doing in terms of picking clothes, and I can have spend less of my energy on thoughts in that area of my life and spend more of that energy in others, reducing my overwhelm. So do an audit of your own digital environment and physical environment and start just removing things that don't add value to your life. Unfollow people that are striving to get your attention and entertain you, but not really adding that much value. Remove people that perhaps trigger your nervous system too often, and through exciting, thrilling videos that keep you excitable and in this sense of stress, which if overdone can leave you feeling pretty overwhelmed and stressed. The next one I want to talk about is an important one. It is worry as a protection mechanism. The two main reasons we can say we worry are to protect ourselves from a threat. This could be a mental threat, something like a fear of inadequacy, which might lead to something like being a perfectionist or perfectionism. It also could be a physical threat, so a worry for loved ones when they're out and about, perhaps traveling. The one thing we have to realize about fear and worry, it's our attempt to have a sense of control over something so we can worry less. But often we are worrying and trying to control things that we are unable to control. And that means the worry will just stay in our lives and tend not to reduce and instead sometimes even progress. You may have heard the solution from me actually speaking, which would be in these contexts, working on that aspect of your mental health. The other thing would be to write down on a piece of paper all the things that impact the worry in particular that you're talking about, and then circle the ones that you are able to control and become really comfortable with the uncertainty of the ones you can't control. Two examples of this would be when I was younger, my mum used to always ask me to message her when I got home from a night out. She couldn't control me messaging her, so this would obviously lead to a worry. And unfortunately, I'm a bit of a forgetful son and I would forget to text her at home. In this example, my mum could have done two things. One, to give up on me messaging her, but to really have a conversation with me, to know that she cares about me being safe when I am out, which would impact perhaps some decisions I would make. This might differ if I was a daughter perhaps, and the conversation might involve giving recommendations such as not being the last person in the cab to be dropped home, or perhaps all friends being dropped home together and then getting picked up from a single location the next day. These are things within your control, so try and focus on that. Another fear or worry that people tend to have is at work. The fear of job security and being let go. The fear of dealing with a boss that might be a bit of a bully and really impractical. In these cases, we can't control if someone else likes us or not to a certain degree, especially if that person is a bad boss, hell-bent on not liking you. And in these instances, you may want to write down the things you can control, such as being amazing at your job, delivering on the things that you're meant to as part of your job, being on time, and being communicative and just generally a team player at work. If things escalate, then there's two ways of dealing with something like a bad manager. And one would be just to spend endless amounts of energy and time trying to impress someone that you have no control over. Or it would be to communicate really well, start keeping records, and maybe reach out to something like an HR function to see what could be done. These are difficult situations to manage, but ultimately we have to be realistic. And we have to realize if we want to reduce our worry, we have to focus far more on what we can control. And this will help us incredibly. Information overload is another aspect of worry in this day and age where information is available in abundance. From scrolling down our feeds on Instagram and other things where people try to teach us and entertain us, to being able to find the answer to virtually anything we think we want to know on Google, and even watching this video on YouTube of trying to learn and improve ourselves. This is a really good thing, but it can turn bad with the amount of information available to us. This is why I like to follow and be really conscious about who I'm following on Instagram. I don't need to follow every single
account in the world that tends to be good at the thing I want to learn. I also want to just interact with genuine accounts and with people just trying to provide value and not trigger me into a heightened sense of mood. We need to be wise about how many things we're working on at any one time and what we're trying to learn. We really need to accept that taking action is often more important, especially when we get to a certain stage of being compliant with something or having information, than just learning that next thing. There's a principle called the Pareto principle, which effectively says 80% of the benefit of taking an action comes from about 20% of these given actions in that area. So if you can be good at the 20% of actions that you need to take, you'll get 80% of the value. You probably want to focus there. An example of this would be something like videography for me. I've started doing it recently, and there is so much information out there, potentially more than anything else, on YouTube, on Instagram, and everywhere else. There's so much to think about, be it the endless range of tripods available, a huge number of cameras to choose from, and different functionalities, microphones, lighting, filters, so much. I could sit there all day and be overwhelmed, which I was at a certain point in time. And then I had to make the decision just to get out there, record content, and progressively get better. Take information when I need it, rather than just being fed information before I take any action at all. And I would recommend you do the same. Get enough information that motivates you to take action, but don't let information get to the point where it creates a paralysis by analysis, which can also happen. The second example of trying to record content was me wanting to record more content in the gym. This meant, because I wanted it to be high quality, taking a tripod, taking a camera, sometimes taking a microphone, having to decide on shots I would be taking, putting it in different places. And this created an overwhelm for me, which effectively meant often I felt like no longer going to the gym and doing my workouts. So for a short period of time, I completely abandoned the idea of taking videos in the gym, which I am still currently doing. You may ask why I didn't record on my phone. Two reasons being, you can get better quality videos on a camera, and the other one being, I am due for an upgrade on my phone, which I need to do. And this would be a potential solution. I may give up some of my perfectionism in trying to get the highest quality video and just use my phone, which would be far easier and something I take to the gym anyways, and simply take a phone tripod, which is easy to lug around, versus a camera tripod, which is pretty huge. Decision making. The last example I gave would actually probably a very good example of decision making. If we accept that there's a limited number of decisions we can be making in any one day, we need to be tactical about those things. Now, the biggest contrast I had of this was recently when I actually went over to Bali for 2 months, and because of the cost differential, I was able to afford and to do things such as eat out more often and healthily, have my laundry done. This, simply not having to do it myself, actually gave me more mental capacity and energy to work on other aspects of my business. Being back in England, and like I just mentioned, simply trying to record content. Being back in England, I no longer have that luxury, and I have to decide how that's going to impact me from a day-to-day basis. I'm doing a separate video on systems where I'm going to talk about systems, and this has actually been motivated from my return from Bali with the idea that I want to preserve as much energy as I can to work on my projects, but also at the same time accepting I have more to do when I'm back in England, be it my own laundry, cooking and cleaning, washing dishes, all sorts of things I didn't really need to do for 2 months when I was in Bali. Please have a look out for that video when it arrives. But the thing we really want to be thinking about here is, how do we minimize the amount of decisions we're making? I mentioned earlier in this video that I streamlined the amount of clothes I have, which has reduced the amount of choice I have when I go out. And it hasn't impacted my life in any negative way. Sometimes the order of decisions we're making needs to be prioritized. For instance, this video and recording content in front of a camera takes energy from me. I do find it an effort to do something like this. And today I had to set up my room so I could be on camera. But unfortunately, 2 days ago, I dropped an AirPod in this corner of the room, which meant I had to pick lots of things up. The whole place became a bit of a mess, and unfortunately I still haven't found the AirPod. And a lot of those things are still in this room. And instead of deciding to put them all back and arrange all of that right now before I made this video, I made the decision to pile that up in that corner of the room, which I will show you, and deal with that later in the evening. And simply by making this decision to prioritize my energy for this video rather than cleaning up the mess that I can see there on the left means I'm going to be able to achieve both. I can guarantee you, had I done it the other way, I would have become increasingly tired and frustrated after going through a number of boxes and deciding what to do about different things in that clutter of a mess. And I would not have had the energy to be here in front of this camera by that point. But by rearranging the two, I will inevitably be able to do both. And I plan to clear up this mess a little bit later in the evening. But the biggest concept to take away from there is the fact that we have a limited number of decisions to be making. So understand the decisions you are making and the choices you are making throughout the day, and figure out which ones you want to prioritize, which ones are more to do with the things you need more of in your life, and then try and prioritize as you can to optimize your day and the energy you have during it. The last one I want to talk about is learning something new. We can easily feel overwhelmed when we're learning something new, and this is natural. The learning curve at the start of any journey is so huge. So you want to be able to manage this. One, we want to accept that things might feel difficult. For instance, if I did a comparison of videography to something else that I did in my previous career, working in Excel as a corporate finance advisor would be, after years and years of Excel, something I use from my teams. I can do many things. I'm a bit of an expert in it. That may cause stress and anxiety, someone just picking up that piece of software. Whereas videography, where I am much more of a novice and new learner, I can find incredibly overwhelming, and which means I make the decision to take action sometimes and stop thinking so much. And I would relay the same to you. Try to learn as much as you can in the beginning before it becomes overwhelming, and try to manage that with taking action. Manage your perfectionism. There's too much information out there that could really stop you in your tracks and embracing and enjoying something new, because we can often get confused in thinking more information will prevent us and make us more of an expert, when we have to realize that getting out there, doing things and making mistakes is a part of learning something new and getting better at it. In summary, if you are dealing with overwhelm and worry, I hope this video has been useful. Try to remember, worry is really natural and you want to try to reduce it, not eradicate it. Worry is normally a sign of something that we have an underlying fear about. So if you can, write down a list of things that you control to do with the fear and a list of things you can't control. See what you can do and influence in terms of the one you can control, and really place a lot of focus there. And see if there's any indirect ways that you can control the things that are uncontrollable, especially the uncertain ones that you can't get comfortable with, to see if that might help you reduce your worry. One thing I like to do as well when it comes to worries is to worry once. So to do the task around things I control and don't control once, and then try not to revisit that until new information presents itself or the situation changes for whatever reason. When it comes to nervous system or overload, just be more mindful and make decisions around your environment, be it digital and physical. Decide who to follow. It's okay to be entertained, but it's not okay for you to have your nervous system hijacked on a daily basis, scrolling down your newsfeed, which, let's be honest, most of us are doing for far longer than we should. Try and make your physical environments a better place to be, more peaceful, free of clutter. These can all be things that are helpful to your mood. When it comes to information overload, just remember there is an infinite amount of information out there today. And the Pareto principle, which is that 80% of the benefit can come from 20% of the actions in any skill or any area of life, is a good one to try and keep in mind, which may get you taking action and focusing less on consuming even more information. That can make it overwhelming and lead to paralysis through analysis, which is no good for anyone. Remember, you have a limited amount of decisions you can make in a day, and even the ones we're not making consciously, there's thousands of throughout the day. So the ones you can remember, the ones you do realize you're making, try to have a sit down and think about the ones you want to be prioritizing. For me, it's recording here content for YouTube over recording gym content for now. And today it's also about clearing up my clutter of a mess after I've done what's a greater priority for me, which is recording this video. The last thing is, when it comes to learning something new, it can be exciting and thrilling, and just make sure you find the balance where you accept learning something new does come with a steeper learning curve, but you take action and you embrace that journey and you enjoy it. Because if you don't, you're probably not going to do it for long enough, and you are significantly more likely to give up before you get the results you're looking for. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, hang around for other videos that I will be doing. Please leave a comment on things you found useful in your own life dealing with worry and overwhelm. Take care.